entertainmentbuddha.com.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey now, everyone! It's Matt and Nick. And you know what that means? It's time for a new episode of Star Wars Time. Woo! The show. Alright, man. So, Nick, we got a few things to talk about tonight. It was an average week in Star Wars news, I'd say. We got a new trailer. It was a TV spot, and it was a TV spot that reached upwards of a minute in length, and it actually had a lot of new dialogue to it. It pretty much debunked some of the shit that people are coming up with after watching the trailer that released in October. So we got that to talk about. We have Battlefront 2's campaign to talk about. Yes, people, we're going to talk Battlefront 2, and we're not going to shit all over it, because we're not going to dedicate this cast to the game's issues, which have been alleviated at this point, but it's probably already too late. It's just, this game is a tragic story from the get-go. So what we're going to do, we're going to focus on some of the upsides of the game, in particular the campaign, which I at least believe is a solid entry into Star Wars universe canon. So before we get to that, we're going to discuss a few other minor items as well as that trailer. So Nick, what do you think, man? Decent week in Star Wars news, nothing too major about the movies, but with the release of the game, clearly a major week for Star Wars fans.
Oh yeah, I mean, any press is good press, right? Is what used to be the term in Hollywood.
I don't know about this one, because I think EA and DICE executives probably had a lot of heartburn this week and a lot of nights of lost sleep.
Absolutely. But I mean, aside from the game, we did get some little nuggets on the Han Solo film from Woody Harrelson, and we got some more context behind The Last Jedi from Rian Johnson himself. And in addition to the game and the new trailer, it was a pretty solid week. I mean, like you said, this has kind of become the average week for Star Wars now that we're getting, as close as we are to Episode 8's release. So yeah, it was pretty good. Nothing like noteworthy, nothing crazy, but it gives us something to talk about to you guys. So I guess we'll kick it off with Woody, and I don't know, man. Woody Harrelson is a special guy. I mean, he's always like.
You gotta love him,
right, he's a hard dude to just not enjoy talking to or not enjoy listening to what he has to say, because he's such a magnanimous guy. So obviously the filming for Solo, A Star Wars Story, is wrapped up. So he's probably been doing interviews with some people around, just talking about his experience working with Ron Howard, being in a Star Wars film, stuff like that. So one of the reporters that he was talking to was from the Toronto Sun-Times. And they asked him, so how does it feel to be in something as epic as, Solo, a Star Wars movie? Because when people think about Star Wars, obviously you think of, the epicness of the films in general. I mean, we look at Rogue One. They had a lot of great epic moments in there. Obviously, the original trilogy is full of them, too. They tried with the prequels and then missed the mark. But even, Episode 7 has had some, really great epic moments in it. But when it comes down to the Solo movie, it seems like Woody Harrelson has a little bit of a different idea about the scale or the epicness of the film. So this is what Woody said to the reporter. He says, "Epic. I can't think of it in those terms, but I do think we've made a really good movie, and it could be a really funny movie. And Ron Howard is just a joy."
Does that concern you at all?
Yes. Yes. At first, when I saw this and I read it, I was like...
To me, it's almost like Affleck's reception to, all the DC universe shit now, where he's just kind of like, yeah, it's good, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, when your immediate thought when asked about a movie is to say, oh, man, the director was great to work with, that's probably not a great thing.
I mean, just the hesitation he has with the word epic scares me.
Yeah, I mean... because it is hard, and I guess we need to kind of wrap our heads around the fact that Solo is probably going to be something completely different than we've ever seen in Star Wars history before.
Oh, of course it is. I mean, it's going to be even more different than Rogue One, because Rogue One was still tied to a major plot point of the Skywalker saga, right? I mean, Han Solo doesn't need to or probably should have any tie to the Skywalker saga outside of casual references to the Rebel Alliance and the Imperials.
Yeah, so we're used to seeing like these grand scale battles like we talked about in the last cast, and we're always thinking of Star Wars in terms of some sort of conflict. Like a conflict is happening between these two factions. I mean, it's always between some sort of politically motivated factions. Like in the prequels we had the Separatists and then the Republic, and then the original trilogy had the Empire and the Rebellion. Now with the new trilogy you have the Resistance and the First Order, and even in Rogue One, like you said, you're still in that Empire versus the Rebellion mode because it was linked directly to Episode 4. But in Solo, we don't know anything about the plotline of this movie, but since it's centered around a person and not really a universe or a galaxy that is in conflict, it's definitely going to lose some of that bang and some of those giant moments that we're used to seeing on screen for a Star Wars film. And I don't blame Woody for saying that it's not epic, because in the realm of Star Wars and what we've seen so far, it probably doesn't live up to that.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on someone's own definition of epic. I mean, it can mean different things. It could be just a really well-done movie, and I could still say that's an epic film.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have to look at, like, the two main characters we assume in this movie. You know, I mean, we know that Woody Harrelson's going to play a pretty big role, and we also know that Alden Ehrenreich is Han Solo. Both of these characters, or both of these actors, come from, a comedic background. Woody Harrelson more so than Alden Ehrenreich, but Alden has, he's kind of known for, and he came to prominence for his role in Hail Caesar, which was, a comedic film. And I guess I can see that being something that they tried to enhance in this film, especially like they said, in the article that I'm reading here, is that, Han Solo has always been known for like kind of one-liners or, witty lines, witty remarks that he dropped in the middle of serious situations.
Come on, let's be real. Go back to the old trilogy. How many sentences did Harrison Ford actually speak? I mean, it was maybe the most in one dialogue session, a sentence, 2 sentences.
Yeah, but exactly.
Maybe 3.
He wasn't verbose. Like, he's not going to go on some sort of long diatribe.
He wasn't giving any speeches. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but he had, those funny moments. Like, they're trying to repair the Falcon, and he's talking to Leia. He runs away, and he's like, "We don't have time to discuss this in a committee," and then runs off. And she's like, and then just her reaction when she's like, "I'm not a committee," and then runs after him.
He's a smart ass.
I mean, that's the highlights of Han Solo. You're never gonna find, there's the iconic line like the "I love you, I know." Like, even that is like a witty, still touching, remark to have right before he gets frozen carbonite. But like he was never the one to like, say anything mushy or be the serious character. So I guess I'm kind of relieved to know that they are treating Han as we know him from the original trilogy. But it's just like, I don't know, just the way that Woody put it, I think we made a really good movie, and it could be really funny. So I mean, I guess we just have to wait and see. May 25th is when it's supposed to come out still. But it's like, I'm really apprehensive about this movie just because of all the issues it's had, and just because they haven't really delayed it. I guess they just...
I think, that to me is the most concerning thing, period, is the fact that this thing is, 6 months away. and we haven't seen dick shit. I mean, we just got the title 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. I really think that they're just going to, like...
Come on. It's a Star Wars movie. There's got to be a lot of post-editing work to be done.
I think we're going to get some heavy things around Solo once Last Jedi finally drops in theaters in December.
You think? I mean, I think there has to be a trailer by January.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like late January at the latest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're gonna wait much longer after Jedi is out in theaters, because once Jedi is out in theaters, that's one marketing machine they can wind down. Like, they don't need to worry about it anymore. It hits the theaters, it makes its first $150 million on the opening weekend, and then all they have to worry about is cutting one trailer or one spot that's like, with all of the critic ratings on it, and then they're done. And then they can wind up the machine for Solo, and I would imagine that would probably kick in, late December. I would hope to see something late December, even before the January turn of the year. So,
well, I agree. That's why I said late January, but I mean, at the rate they've been handling this movie up until now, nothing would surprise me at this point.
Yeah, it's weird for sure. So, I mean, I still obviously we're both going to see the movie. Are we going to see it, 5-6 times like we're going to see Last Jedi? Yeah, it depends. This isn't a sure thing. Like, Last Jedi, from what we can tell, is a sure thing. I mean, we're going to see this movie multiple times. People listening to this podcast will see that movie multiple times. Solo is a different story,
I think the only thing that could fuck Solo is word of mouth. I think just on brand recognition alone, it's going to destroy opening weekend.
I have no doubt that it's gonna bang hard when it starts.
Right. But so, like I said, unless it just completely fails on opening weekend, I still think it's a $500 million easy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's gonna hit the 500 million mark, I think, without a doubt. But what carried Episode 7 to $1 billion, what carried Rogue One to $1 billion, is that the movie was great, and people like us, and even casuals, probably saw it more than once. So, is Solo gonna be good enough to get us and casuals back into the theater again to see it? I mean, I don't know. So it might not carry across to $1 billion. It might not make $750 million. It's probably safe to say that it'll make $500 million. But it's really, like you said, like, if word of mouth gets out after release, after the big bang of release, that this movie's not that great, then it might not carry over really strong into the following weeks and even, into the next month. So we'll see. I mean, it's got big names in it. People love Donald Glover. People love Woody Harrelson. And obviously everybody in the world loves Emilia Clarke because she's Daenerys Targaryen. But just because all three of those people are in the movie doesn't mean it's going to be a hit. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's got to be good. It's got to be good to carry on. So the next little minor news bit, Nick, I want to get to before we get into the big boys is an interview with Sci-Fi Now between Rian Johnson, obviously the magazine, and they're talking about The Last Jedi and how people are kind of comparing it to, well, The Force Awakens was kind of like A New Hope, so naturally The Last Jedi is going to be kind of like Empire Strikes Back. And, the article kind of goes on to say that it's not a pure homage to Empire.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody at this point is basically assuming that this movie is just going to be I don't want to say a mirror, but a very close representation of what Empire Strikes Back was, obviously with the trailers.
And I still think it's going to be relatively close.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I don't care what he says. I kind of have a vision in my head, and I'm sticking with it until I see it.
I mean, just based off of Star Wars movies in general, I mean, speaking specifically about the original trilogy, like, there was a flow, and not even talking about, like, plot points in any way, but, like, just the way that the stories flowed is, like, you can't have a consistency across all three movies you had to have like ups and downs, you know, peaks and valleys in the story and also in the characters' plot lines. So like if Luke Skywalker were to never run into any difficulty throughout any 3 films, we would not be talking about Star Wars today. And where Luke Skywalker ran into his first real difficult moment was in
his fighting his dad.
Yeah, exactly. Was episode 5 when, you know, he's fighting
as
Darth
basically
Vader.
A Padawan. I mean, he was essentially a Padawan fighting his dad.
Yeah, so these characters, and this isn't just with Star Wars, this is with any good story. Like, any good story that's told, especially over multiple movies, like, there's going to be these moments. So, like, for people to say, or for people to expect this movie to not have some sort of mirroring of episode 5 is kind of like saying that they don't want the characters that are these new characters to run into any difficulties or something like that. Like, it has to happen. So I just think that the way that it may be mirrored could be different than people expect. I know that, like, there's so much speculation around, like, who's going to turn to the dark side in this movie. Is it going to be Luke? Is it going to be Rey? Is it going to be this character? I mean, like, there's so much that's based around that, but there's other things that could happen with other key characters that could have the same effect that was felt in Empire Strikes Back, but be completely different than what the speculation is around this film. And I think that's kind of what Ryan was getting at, is that, yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be some similar feelings to Empire, but it's not just going to straight mirror it. Like, it's not going to, like, Rey is more than likely not going to fight somebody and get her hand cut off and all this other shit that like, exactly like what happened in Empire. At least that's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell at this point, but Ryan's trying to convince us that Jedi is going to be something different.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
I mean, here's a quote from Ryan, and I think that this is him trying to, like, you know, pull people away from this idea that, like, you're going to go into the theater and you're going to see a retelling of Empire. He says, the automatic temptation is to say, well, it's a middle chapter, so it's got kind of an Empire thing. But at the same time, I really wanted to maintain the same sense of fun that J.J. Abrams had in The Force Awakens. That, to some extent, in Return of the Jedi, which I was like 10 years old, that was prime for me when that came out, in the sense of playfulness, I think. So he's trying to hint at, like, you know, this movie, from what we've seen in the trailer, seems really dark, but he doesn't want it to feel completely different than it did, or than The Force Awakens did. So he wants to kind of maintain some of the fun, some of the playfulness. Obviously, that was mostly held between Poe and Finn, and now we have Finn with a new character with Rose. So we may see some of that banter and some of that, you know, the more fun moments in this film between those two characters. But I'm interested to see how he's able to pull that off, because like I said, like, most of what we've seen from this film is very dark so far. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's going to be they gave the guy a fucking trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. Like
this movie is, to me, already a guaranteed fantastic film.
Yeah, they're not going to give...
I mean, let's be real, dude. As long as they're better than the prequels, I don't give a shit. I could give a fuck what the film is like, as long as it's better than the prequels.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the low bar for every Star Wars fan.
Yeah, it's super low bar. I mean, we're talking like a low bar, like a limbo bar. I mean, fuck it.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like, they're not going to give fucking... Okay, so this is going to sound weird, but, you know, I mean, to me, Disney still might give JJ a trilogy. Who knows? Like, we now know that they want to continue making Star Wars films for as long as they can, and we know that they have one trilogy coming up with Rian Johnson completely.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't already offer him one and he turned it down, because, I mean, this guy literally, you could tell even on the behind the scenes of this, like, as much as he loved it and has loved working on Star Trek and Mission Impossible, he's like, I've been labeled now, you know, like the fucking rebooter sequel guy.
Yeah.
And any artist, especially, you know, a guy like him, Well, no one's gonna not love the money and fame that gets him. Let's be real. But as an artist, I guarantee you the guy's like, man, I'd really like to just do something new, like another Super 8 or something.
I guess people forget that, like, he really made his name off of Cloverfield. Like, and Cloverfield wasn't...
Well, no, dude, he made his name off TV.
Well, yeah, but...
I mean, Felicity and Alias, I mean, that's where the guy cut his teeth.
Yeah. I mean, that's
where he became...
Like, he came up in the industry.
And then the Mission Impossible 3, I think, was his first movie.
Yeah, but I mean, like, people knew the name. Like, to me, I didn't know who J.J. Abrams was because I wasn't a huge TV guy. And, like, I didn't watch Alias... And
yeah, that's. I mean, I think we're getting generational again here between you and I.
Well, I mean, Alias was still like I remember the show being out and being on TV and stuff like that, but I was just never a big TV watcher. So like to me,
well, shit, you probably were in like fucking elementary school.
Yeah, I was definitely younger.
I mean, I mean, I was like in almost college.
So, but like he's not gonna get Star Wars or even Star Trek. Based off of that, like he got those.
No, of course, but I mean, he got into cinema through TV, is what I was saying.
Yeah, but like my point was like he exploded because of Cloverfield. Like that's what made him like a household name, I guess you would say. I mean, Lost 2 and stuff like that. Obviously, these TV series that he did were great, but like Cloverfield is what kind of rocketed him into like a stratospheric proportion in my mind, and like that's where people were like, okay, like he's a legit.
It may have even been. I mean, dude, Mission Impossible was a huge franchise. I mean, it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but Cloverfield to me was just something that was so different, and like nobody had ever seen it before.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I get like that's just me. That's for me. That's what like makes JJ's Cloverfield.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was original.
Yeah, and so like for all these people who are like, oh, he's not original. He can't make original shit. Like you said. With the TV series that he put together with like shit like Lost and Alias and then with his first giant like original success, like the thing that like put his name to it, being Cloverfield, it's hard to say that the dude's not original. I mean, he's just a good storyteller, and when you have a good storyteller like that, you know, people like Disney and Lucasfilm will give him the opportunity to carry on these legacy great franchises like Star Wars, and then obviously he had his time with Star Trek too. It's just, to me, it's just a dumb argument to say that the dude is just a sequel machine. Like it's already proven that he can make original content, and he makes it really well.
It's the same shit with gamers, man. I mean, for some reason, and this is why geeks and nerds get bad reps. People they take the shit almost too seriously and too far sometimes. It's like, get over it.
Yeah, I mean...
Are you, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, I've seen people throwing up petitions and fucking memes for Ryan getting a trilogy. Like, God, no! I mean, it's the same. Like, it's the end of the world. It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck's wrong with you people?
I mean, it's the people like the fucking retards who sent in death threats to the developers of Battlefront 2 because of this microtransaction bullshit. Like, we're not going to get into it because that's a completely different cast. But like...
Well, didn't he actually come out and say that he actually didn't get death threats?
I thought one of...
But it's happened. It's happened. I mean, like, it's happened on other games.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, like, these people... I mean, like, it's people like that who give... people like us a bad name.
Yeah, because, I mean, in the end, like a geek or nerd, or especially a geek, I mean, to me, a geek is like an Uber fan, you know what I mean? Where a nerd is someone who is, like, almost highly educated in something and somewhat awkward about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, definitionally, it's a weird spot because I guess everybody has their own way of defining geek and nerd and what they identify as. Yeah,
to me, geek is just it's a synonym for super fan.
Yeah, it's like just super passionate about something. I mean, I consider myself a Star Wars nerd because I consider myself well educated on Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna bullshit it either. I mean, I am well versed.
Yeah.
I think I could do pretty well in Star Wars Jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched this show. This was like old school show. It was called Beat the Geeks, and I think it was on Comedy Central. And it was basically like they'd have a panel of like geeks that were experts in certain things, and they would pit them against this one person, this one normal person, quote unquote, to like win cash. If you were able to beat all 3 geeks, then you won some sort of fucking whatever. And one of the geeks that was on there a lot, or like one of the rotating positions for the geeks, was like a Star Wars geek. And I can remember watching that show, and I'd get fucking every question right, even the ones that like, there was one specific like episode that I remember, like the geek got a Star Wars question wrong that I knew. I was like, dude, get the fuck off the stage. Like, come on.
Exactly. I mean, come on, dude. Look who runs Star Wars YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
I mean, I'm just being a hater, but it's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they want popular personalities. Whatever. Anyway, we went down a deep rabbit hole on that one, people.
Well, yeah. Surprise! Welcome to the Star Wars Time Show.
Anyway, all right, so... Ryan.
Let's go with the trailer.
Let's jump right into the trailer, because the new trailer is.
And honestly, dude, I think that the key thing to focus on is really just the new shit that we hear from Rey. I don't think much else is worth discussing. It's really just all the Rey stuff.
Yeah, you get some new reaction shots from Luke. You get some. There's a lot of new shots in this trailer that we haven't seen yet, which is good. And there's also
it's very, very Rey focused in the beginning.
Yeah, and there's also some good, additional, I guess you would say, point of view shots that kind of clear up other ones that were in previous trailers.
What do you see?
Yeah, who are you? And I've seen this place before in my dreams. It's really good. So do you want to kind of walk us through the trailer, Matt?
Yeah, so I really think where it gets very interesting is around like the 36 second mark. And this is where we get new shots of Rey and Luke talking in what appears to be his cave or the tree. And there's either like a ray of light coming in through the entrance, or they have a fire going on. And the reason why this scene is so interesting is because, we get some great new dialogue from Rey, basically relating her journey to Kylo's, which is interesting. And B, we also get confirmation that the edit we saw in the October 9th trailer at the end, where it made it look like Rey was talking to Kylo and he extended his hand to her, is definitely, that's not what happens.
Yeah.
And this scene clears that up.
Exactly. So when Rey asks, I'm looking for someone to show me my place in this world, that, like you said, that was initially set up to look like she was talking to Kylo. It's very clear now that she is talking to Luke.
Right, and you have to assume that Luke responds like, yeah, no chance. You ever hear this Kylo guy? I fucked that up. And I think that's where Rey comes in like, well,
I won't fail you. I think her exact line is, I won't fail you like Kylo. Which is, I mean, dude, that's, to me, that has to be early, though, right? Don't you think that's got to be early?
Oh, yeah. I think this is first 30 minutes.
Yeah, because he's still, like, coming to grips with this person being here, requesting training. Finding him first off, and then coming here with his lightsaber and saying, like, you need to train me. So this is probably pretty early on in the film, probably even before the first training sequence between them, right? Like, she's still trying to convince him, like, train me. Like,
she's even still in her resistance gear, too. I mean, that was, to me, the dead giveaway in the October 9th trailer, even though they made it very clever looking by the edit. But she's still in the shit where she rolled up and handed him his lightsaber.
Yeah. So this is probably pretty early on, but it is.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's first 30 minutes.
Yeah, probably so. And it does do a good job of kind of clearing that up. Now, it doesn't necessarily discount that, Kylo is extending his hand to Rey in that scene that was shown in the first trailer.
Of course.
That's definitely possible still, but it does discount completely the fact that, Rey was saying that she wanted Kylo to show her, her place in this world. So that's not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, like you said, like that's really kind of the big reveal here. I mean, we have more shots of what we assume is Luke's Jedi temple burning to the ground. We have a again, the shots of Rey, coming up from her swim into this cave, chasing Luke.
Hey, you forgot. It looks like Chewie nicks up the Falcon.
Oh yeah, we get to see
he drags one of the quadro cannons across the side of the crate.
Yeah, cannon. Yeah. I mean, that's just. I mean, hey man, remember when they knocked off the satellite?
That's still one of the best scenes in Jedi, where like you get. Yeah. I remember when I first saw that, I really felt Han's pain in letting Lando take his ship.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like don't you hurt
not a scratch.
Oh, I love it. And the best part is that was Lando's ship.
Yeah.
But Han's like so possessive and in love with the Falcon that it literally pains him to give it up to him.
Yeah.
And he fucks it up. He rips the whole goddamn communication dish.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great scene. And then, like, you see Lando's face right after it happened.
Yeah, he's like, oh shit, yeah. Nine Numb's like, ah.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. I mean, just that like you said, that last interaction between Han and Lando before Han like goes off. Lando's laughing it off. He's like, get out of here, you old pirate. And then he's like, I got this. I used to fly this. Yeah, I used to fly this thing all the time. And and then he knocks the fucking the comm dish off. Good shit.
Chewy.
But yeah, I mean, this trailer it adds context. It adds, what I really like about that scene where Rey is talking to Luke clearly is like you could see the emotion in Luke's face. Like, and it like again, that's what I like about this trilogy is that there is so much more emotion just within. From what we can see just within this film than we've seen throughout almost all Star Wars movies previously. Like until...
Oh, definitely the prequels, man. I mean, I just watched all 3 of them. They are completely devoid of any emotion.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. I mean, there was not an emotional scene in that.
None.
I mean, like, obviously...
None.
Obviously, you get some where where Hayden Christensen tries to, bring out the emotion with Anakin in episode 2 where he's talking about slaughtering the...
Dude, by then, with as many times you've probably seen it, you'll probably be asleep because that's how I found myself watching most of the prequels.
It's just... I know that these people are good actors because I've seen them be good actors.
Dude, I'm telling you, watch Sith tomorrow and tell me that it's not one of the worst acted, scripted, everything movies you've ever seen.
I can already picture the scene between Padme and Obi on the
God,
like
dude.
When he's like, I saw a video of Anakin and he was killing younglings. I was like, please, man, like
no. I mean that doesn't even touch the beginning. I mean, ObiWan has so many lame lines. I mean, I think I did it last week on the cast where Palpatine's watching them fight Dooku and he literally goes, yeah. And it's like, what the fuck is that? I mean, that's so unnatural.
I think what most of it is it's just like unnatural. It just feels unnatural, and it's unnatural lines for the situation that people are in. Like when they land Grievous's ship, and he's like, another happy landing, or something like that. It's just like, it just felt so forced. And I don't know why George felt the need to put shit like that in there. Like, I don't know if somebody told him or if he felt like,
Yeah, if anyone cares, that's pretty much what Justice League feels like the entire time, by the way.
See, like, at least with Justice League, I saw, somebody that I work with said the same thing, is that, like, it just doesn't feel good. And he said that you can almost feel the difference in directors. Like, you can feel...
Oh, I mean, I put my review out today. I mean, it's so clearly evident that this is a torn apart movie. I mean, it's one guy's vision trying to mash with another's, and it just doesn't work. It's prequel level movie, dude. I'm telling you, and it's a shame because it clearly had potential. I mean, there's a few bright spots, but it's. And I'm a DC movie apologist. Like, I've made excuses for all the DC movies to be like, no, they're not as bad as everyone's saying. But this one, it's reminded me so much of a Star Wars prequel.
See, like, I feel, aside from...
Everyone's bad in it. I mean, it's just fucking terrible.
Aside from Wonder Woman, I feel like every DC movie you can say that about. Like, it had potential, but then it just missed the mark. I didn't watch the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman. Everybody that
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't
like,
matter.
To me, if the movie was bad in the theaters and you needed director's cut to try to make it even a little better, then you failed. I'm sorry. Like, I know that directors don't always get what they want in films, and they feel like if this could have been in there, then it could have been better. But like, you had $100 million plus, and you had 2 years to make this movie good, and you couldn't do it. So if you're telling me now that I need to go out and buy a director's cut DVD or Blu-ray to see your vision come to life, I'm sorry. You had chances to do that before, and you failed.
I mean, Warner Brothers clearly has no idea what's going on. They don't know how to handle the license, and it's pathetic, because to me, DC is everything. I mean, there are no comic books without Superman and Batman. I mean, Superman is the first ever.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Detective Comics is what DC stands for, and you're right. Like, they brought about that whole genre, like the whole superhero genre.
They are comic books. I mean, they are.
It's just unfortunate that
it's just license holders, man.
Exactly.
I mean, in the end, that's what it comes down to. Marvel ended up being able to retain a lot of their characters, and they built a studio out of it. And yeah, they're owned by Disney now, but they're still pretty much autonomous in how they make the movies.
Yeah, I mean, we can clearly see with Star Wars that Disney knows what they're doing with licenses. They don't fuck around. They don't fuck it up. And they don't put it...
Yeah, I wanted to tweet out, like, after I watched it last night, like, could Disney please buy DC?
Dude, I would be down for Disney to buy...
Or could Marvel buy DC? I don't care.
Yeah, because at this point, I mean, the creators have to feel so bad. Like, the writers of DC Comics and the creators of all of these iconic DC characters have to feel like so bad because they see the success that Marvel's having with all of their characters.
Right, and most of Marvel's characters are just hacks of DC.
Yeah, I mean...
I mean, that's really the truth of everything.
Well, I will be the one person to say that I don't think that there's a good... Like, making a Superman movie is difficult because you've built an inherently... Like, by building a character who has no flaws in him, you've built a flawed concept for a film. Because, like...
Yeah, but I mean... I think this is where our generation will kind of alter our opinions, though. But the Christopher Reeve Superman, like 1 and 2 at least, are fantastic, beautiful, amazing Superman movies. I mean, they look so dated by now. They're a little rough, but that to me presented both a strong and a Superman that I could relate to.
Well, I think it's just because, and we're getting way off topic here, but that's because...
Star Wars?
I mean, that's just because those movies showed Superman in a different light. Like, now they're trying to show Superman as just, like, a fighter. Like, you can't have a Superman movie where you try to show him being weak in a fighting standpoint because it's not realistic and it's hard to grasp for the audience. Like, yeah, Kryptonite makes him weak and shit like that, but, like, he's not going to get into a situation in a fight with Batman to where he doesn't just immediately destroy him. It's just unrealistic to me. I don't know. We're way off topic. Let's bring it back.
Hey, man, Batman was in tank armor, though.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, all right. So, back to the trailer. I mean, I think we hit the main points here. It was really just that new line by Rey saying, like, acknowledging that she understands Luke and she understands... probably now, I mean, I'm sure there's a few conversations in the relationship, but she understands why Luke is exiled.
Yeah, and why he's...
And the effect that Kylo's defection and betrayal had on him. And she's just making a case like, bro, I get it, but I'm not him. I'm better. I can do it. But clearly Luke is still him-hauling here.
Yeah, and it's going to be really difficult for him to get over it. I mean, it's not like he trained...
And that could be what drives the wedge between them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the other thing I wanted to bring up in this trailer that I found interesting was a cut of Snoke dialogue to a Rey shot. And it's when he says, fulfill your destiny, which we already know is, well, we think is him blowing her hair back. But in this trailer, Nick, it's right around the 51 mark... 52. He says, fulfill your destiny. And then, boom, it flashes right to Rey, kind of looking a little angry, lifting up her saber, and it's raining, which we've kind of decided that might be on Octo at this point.
Yeah. And, igniting the
So,
saber.
again, they're making it seem like, hey, your destiny is to take out fucking Skywalker and, be a bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, it could... that's what people are looking at, and they're saying, like, look, this is her turn to the dark side. They're thinking... Act 1 is her being on Acto.
But even again, Rey in this shot, and I'm talking about 54 seconds in, to me, she's still wearing her resistance garb. That's not her Jedi training gear. What they're calling Jedi training gear. I acknowledge it might not be, she's not a Jedi, clearly. But even in marketing and toys, they call it, Rey and Jedi training gear. I mean, she does not have those gray, like, semi-tunic strips on her. She's wearing the undergarment of her resistance outfit.
Yeah, but that's what everybody's pointing to. They're like, fulfill your destiny. And then we obviously get the shot of Luke on the ground, in the rain. And then this shot, you see Rey in the rain.
Sorry, man. I do think this is a heated conversation between the two. And I think this might be the head or the melting point of Rey basically like, listen, man, you gotta fucking help me out, you motherfucker.
Yeah. Like
this is how I feel. Like you're starting to fucking piss me off. If you're not gonna help me, I'm gonna go do this. And Luke's like, no, it's not gonna go the way you're thinking. And maybe this is where they kind of come to an understanding. Or
this is when
if we're gonna go with. Exactly. Or if we're going to go into, what we think may happen, this is when she's like, listen, I'm fucking out of here. I know my boy Finn's in trouble. I'm headed to Crate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more than likely what this scene is. This isn't like she gets captured by Snoke or whatever, ends up in Snoke's lair getting, force blasted to hell, and then Snoke tells her, all right, now you got to go back to Acto and kill Luke Skywalker. Like, that's not how it's going to play out. I'm
pretty sure that's going to happen late in the movie.
Yeah, so like you said, I agree with you that this is more than likely it's coming to the climax of where Rey is just getting fed up. She's like, look, I'm here. You've already trained me a little bit, and now all of a sudden you see how powerful I am and you're going to stop training me? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So...
So I do think they come to a resolution, because I do think there's a reason Rey ends up in the new garb. I mean, as silly as that sounds,
I feel like
it's logical though. Like, there's a reason she's gonna end up wearing that gray cross. I mean, it's a play on her Jakku outfit, but it's clearly different than the Resistance outfit. But it's also a play on the Jedi tunic. I mean, it is.
Well, maybe she goes back to the Resistance and she suits up in a new look playing a Jedi. She's like, I've had enough training, I feel like I'm a Jedi, because we clearly see her running in that gear with the lightsaber
dude, there's also the theory that Finn and Poe end up on Acto looking for her, and they possibly save Luke and her from the fucking Knights of Ren.
There's a lot of different ways it can go. It's just
it's just funny to think that, a month ago or whatever, we're sitting there like, damn, that trailer gave away a lot. But in the end, it didn't. If you really look at the edits now that these TV spots are coming out, and that's the whole point we're talking about this, is that's how fucking shifty the edits are.
Yeah. There's a lot of scenes in here that could look like they go together and then end up not looking like they, not end up going together.
These trailers don't come from idiots. I mean, they don't come from the director. There's literally like jobs in Hollywood. You're a trailer fucking guy.
Yeah, you cut trailers to not give anything away.
Yeah. I mean, the director can say, please don't show this, and this, and this, and this. And the guy's like, cool. But outside of that, he's free to cut up the movie as he wants to fucking make a trailer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like when they cut the fucking Batman vs. Superman movie trailer and then kind of...
and just gave you the whole thing. And now that we've seen this TV spot, we do know for sure that Rey is not speaking those lines of desperation to Kylo. They are to Luke. That does not mean that Kylo isn't extending his hand to Rey. You never know. Could be extending it to his uncle. Like, he snaps out of it and is like, hey, man, yeah, let's do it.
Dude, that would be fucking dope to me. I think that would be amazing. Like, because we see Kylo, obviously we know that he's standing behind some kind of fire. We're assuming that scene is on Crate. And we're also kind of assuming that maybe Luke is not on crate and he's doing it to Rey. But I would love a scene where Kylo comes back, and this is what brings Luke back. We're all assuming that somehow it's Rey. Rey brings him back. Is it her training? Is it her resistance of the dark side? Is it something like that? But to me, it would be incredible if it's Kylo realizing that he strayed and he did something wrong. He went down the wrong path, and then he goes back to his uncle and he extends his hand and he says, "You're right. I fucked up, and now I can see that. Look what has come about because of me." And then they link back up again, and then that's what renews Luke's faith in the Force again. Is that he didn't need to save his nephew, because that's where he's at right now. He's like, Kylo has fallen and I can't save him, and he's in this mindset that he fucked up and that he's the only person that could possibly save him, and he doesn't have any confidence to do it. And wouldn't it be nice if the Force shows Luke that not everything's on his shoulders, and that a person like Kylo, even as far as he's straight off the path, can come back and realize that he's made mistakes? I think that would be great.
Hey, man, that's why they pay me the big bucks. That's why I sit here in my basement talking on a microphone. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. They're just, I think a lot of that stuff they're like a defense mechanism to protect me from Luke possibly dying.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want it to happen.
I think
I don't. I think the Han thing was poetic, especially because the guy hated the fucking character, and I'm just like, as a fan, I'm like, all right, man, hey, thanks, but go fuck off. Really.
I mean, Harrison Ford.
I've never understood
in Episode 6.
Yeah, I've never understood the guy's hate for this franchise and the character, because without it, he's nobody. I mean, let's be real.
I mean, I'm not gonna say, like, I know that I'm out as saying that I 100% believe that Luke is gonna die in this trilogy, but I don't think it's completely necessary. Like, I could see a world where this trilogy ends and he's still alive. I just think if you want to...
Yeah, I mean, the way they did Han, it made narrative sense. I mean, it was his son, and yeah, clearly, it made a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Where Luke's death, as you just said, sure, it would make sense to kind of push forward the new generation even more to be on their own, but yeah, he doesn't need to be toast. He can still play a back seat. He can still play a Yoda to a Kenobi or an Anakin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely possible. So, any other trailer beats you want to hit on before we move on to the...
Nah, I mean, I think we got the big deal. So let's get on to Battlefront 2. And people here, like I said, there may be a day where we go into this game and just kind of talk about the debacle that it has been leading up to its launch, and the impact of that on the launch, and the impact on potential future Star Wars games. But what I do want to talk about briefly, I mean, we don't have a ton of time. We've already been going for a bit because that's what we do. We spent fucking 10 minutes on Superman for some reason. But I want to talk a little bit about Star Wars Battlefront 2, Nick, and in particular its campaign. Because I think in the end, it is getting completely overshadowed by the whole pay-to-win controversy that this game has faced literally for a long time, but it really came to a boiling point this week because it was its release, right? Yeah. So, just real quick backstory if you're not a gamer. EA and DICE have made Star Wars Battlefront 2. They improved upon Battlefront 1 by adding in a single-player campaign, which I completely appreciate, as well as improving upon multiplayer with more maps, more factions, so on and so forth. But a big sticking point arose when it was revealed that it was going to include loot crates, which a lot of games do. But you got to remember, you're spending $60 to even play the game. It's not a freemium game where you can download it and sample it and really enjoy it. But if you want to get more out of it, you can pay a bit. I mean, it's literally a $60+ game, up over $100 depending on the edition. So when people found out that these loot crates that people could pay money for would actually severely help them, like it would give them mega boosts in the multiplayer portion of the game, obviously there was an uproar because they're like, yo, I mean, in multiplayer, again, you're competing against other humans. You want it to be even Steven, right? Skill versus skill. No one should be able to have an advantage over the other. But the way the game was set up, that was not the case. So, Nick, clearly things blew up this week, especially on a Reddit post from EA basically trying to defend it, and people went ape. And before you know it, the night before it was supposed to release in full, which was today, or when you guys are listening to it, it'll be next week. It was Friday the 17th. EA decides to scrap the pay-to-win system.
Yeah, and actually, there was an article in Game Informer pretty late today that came out, and they said that was Disney. Like, Disney came out to EA, and they said, do you realize what the fuck you're doing to Star Wars' reputation?
And I think a lot of people were starting, especially Star Wars fans, dude. I'm glad you brought that up. Where I think a lot of them that weren't gamers were starting to go like, what the fuck? I mean, how's this even a news item? I mean, we're talking about the Star Wars brand. There's no bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Star Wars people who aren't into games are used to, like, everything about Star Wars being positive, aside from, like, this most recent stint where you had the issues with Colin Trevorrow and then the issues with the solo directors, the previous solo directors. Like, Star Wars has kind of been pretty pristine in the land of the media, but now, I mean, like, this fucking shit blew up, and it blew up hard. Like, it's almost unthinkable to imagine a world where the Star Wars movies are doing as well as they've ever done and are incredible, and then the one thing that really kind of starts to drag Star Wars into the mud is a fucking an EA video game. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it really did. It boiled over, and Disney was like, look, get your fucking shit together. Like, you're selling this game for, like you said, $60 for the baseline version, over $100 if you're buying these special editions and deluxe editions and shit like that. Like, are you fucking kidding me with this Loot Crate shit? Turn it off for now, and if you need to turn it back on later, then we'll talk about it. And that's what happened, and Disney fucking laid the hammer down. So I'm glad that they did it. But
right, and my point was, again, and I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but the point of bringing it up was that all that bullshit has been overshadowing the fact that this game has a canon-based story attached to it. Okay, people? That's the key word, a canon-based story. Or I should have said keywords, because there's more than one word. Canon-based, okay? Does everyone understand what that means? That means this is legit lore.
Yeah, this is
right?
new shit.
This is stuff that you can bank on. This is stuff that you can watch and be like, all right, this is affecting the overall galaxy that I have known and loved for X amount of years, depending on how old you are. Because there's so many Star Wars fans across so many generations. I mean, there's people that can say they've been Star Wars fans for over 40 years. 40 years exactly at this point, right? So that's what it bothers me. And again, it still is. It's on EA and DICE. It is.
It's not on Disney.
And it's not Disney's fault. It's not Star Wars' fault. It's not Lucasfilm's fault. It's just the way they decided to do it. And if you honestly know the gaming industry, I don't necessarily even blame them. They just made stupid design choices, because these loot crates and these micros are in a lot of games now, because that's how these AAA people make their money. Just because a game is $60 doesn't mean these people are getting $60 a copy. They may end up getting a few bucks.
Yeah,
in the end. So these people need to find ways to make money, and these loot crates and micros have been that way. But the way that EA and DICE set it up, I mean, you almost have to blame it on DICE. They're the fucking developer.
I don't know, dude.
I mean, who knows if EA was going like, no, you need to do it this way.
I think DICE makes the game, and then EA makes this shit. Like, DICE made the functionality, they made the game.
But I know, but do you think EA is the one sitting there saying program, like, okay, at this level they can get this for free, or at this level they get that for free, I mean, or if you pay this, you get that immediately.
Okay, so the progression system itself was definitely designed by DICE, but I think it was EA that said, okay, you have this progression system, now put loot crates in this motherfucker, to where if somebody drops an extra 50 on it, then they can get all the cool shit or whatever. Like, EA did that 100%. Like, DICE may have made a really steep progression system that really made you grind shit out. But
again, in the end, who knows, like, who dictated it should be that way. I mean...
Anyway, what you guys...
So that's the bummer. So really what I want to talk about, though, Nick, is the campaign, which has been just basically thrown out with the bathwater at this point. I mean, people aren't even remotely discussing it. And it's a travesty, because if you're a gamer, you know that there has not been a AAA-produced Star Wars video game since the Force Unleashed series, right? And at this point, what is that now? 2010? 12? I mean, is it even earlier than that, probably?
It might have been earlier.
2007?
Yeah, I think it was earlier than that. We talked about it on a previous podcast, but it's definitely been coming up on 8 to 10 years. Force Unleashed.
I think it's 2008.
Yeah.
So the first Force Unleashed was 2008.
Second one was 2010.
That's more than,
so we're 7 years deep without a.
And the second one sucked.
Yeah, and it was
so it didn't really even count. So like, if we want to go back to the last real, pretty great Star Wars game, and I'm talking, I'm an Uber fan, all right? If it's a Star Wars game, I'm going to buy it regardless. And I'm buying it because it's Star Wars and I want story. I don't really measure Star Wars games on their gameplay. I know that might sound weird, but that's just how I am. I measure Star Wars games on, did they enhance the universe for me?
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? I don't really care about the gameplay. So, back to my point, we're talking over, 9 years ago at this point. The last time we've had a single-player, campaign-oriented Star Wars game. And we have that now in Star Wars Battlefront 2. And it is canon-based. Force Unleashed, not canon anymore. Battlefront 2, canon. And it tells a story at a very key time period. We're talking from prior to the Battle of Endor, to the Battle of Endor, and then beyond up through Jakku, the Battle of Jakku, which we know was the ultimate battle between the Empire and the Rebellion that basically snuffed out the Empire for good. And I think from what I've heard, some of the expansion content is going to expand beyond even that time period. So we're getting key insights into the Star Wars universe right after the Rebellion blew up the Death Star. And I haven't beat it yet, Nick, but I'm about 8 missions into the 11 or 12, so I'm a good chunk into it. And it's been a pure joy. I mean, there's been some really good storytelling. I mean, I wouldn't say the gameplay is anything to write home about, and sometimes even the cutscenes and the character animations look a little odd. But on the Xbox One X, the game still looks fantastic. But more importantly, the story is interesting and revealing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the article that you wrote and that you kind of consulted me about was really great because it clears up one of the huge points that we've always, like, even on this podcast that we bring up a lot.
Well, at least you and I mean, again, I don't know. The article did okay, but it clearly wasn't as popular as I thought it would be. So it could just be a beef you and I have. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you've listened to this podcast before, we always talk about what happens to Luke Skywalker's lightsaber at the end of Episode 6. And then in this game, you see Luke holding or wielding his new, or not a new lightsaber, his old lightsaber, his original, Return of the Jedi green lightsaber that we saw him throw down in combat after he, bested his father on a Death Star. Matt and I don't know if, the funny thing is like, I don't know if it was like a known thing that, yeah, of course he picked it up. Like, I hadn't seen it before. I watched the end scenes of that movie, and there was no indication that he has it. Like, you can see the clasp on his belt where he keeps it. It was empty.
Oh, dude, trust me. I made sure to go frame by frame before I wrote the article. Because I was not going to be called out for being a fucking idiot.
We don't see him pick it up. We don't see it on his belt. Even during the funeral pyre scene, when we get a full body shot of him from the back, it's not hanging from his belt. So, I mean, there was no reason for us to believe that he still had that saber. The only thing that we were kind of wrong about is the direction in which he throws it. When he throws it, he doesn't really throw it to the side because the battle between him and his father ended on a bridge.
Isn't it kind of behind him? Doesn't he kind of toss it behind him, or is it in front of him?
He throws it in front of him towards the Emperor is what he does. So, Palpatine is kind of standing on that platform. He steps down from his throne, down like a step, and then he throws it towards him. So he actually throws it away from the pit where Vader throws the Emperor down. So more than likely what happened was he threw it and it was kind of laying, I don't want to say near the feet of the Emperor, but in that general area. And then, it had to be when he picked up Vader, he also picked up the lightsaber, but we just never see it, which is kind of weird. I mean, it's one of those continuity things that now kind of crops up because of this game.
Oh yeah, totally.
But
yeah.
I mean,
well, that's what my buddy said. I mean, I shared it with him too because I value his opinion, and he's like, dude, that's kind of Deus Ex Machina shit. To me.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's just very convenient. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. People. I mean, it's an iconic weapon. I mean, it's the first.
Well, it almost again, we could almost make even more sense to us because, as you said, if he threw it towards the Emperor, that means it was probably in the line of fire with the lightning. And that's probably why it looks so much more weathered.
Yeah, exactly. If
in Battlefront 2, I mean, really that copper shine is it's kind of blackened at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting shocked and you're laying on a metal fucking platform.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that lightsaber was getting tagged too because I mean you could see it. I mean that lightning was hitting all the metal around.
Yeah,
them.
exactly. And like you said, the shots that you put in the article are great. Really close up shots, very clearly.
I mean, the shape's dead on. It's just like I said. The only argument you have is the copper.
Yeah,
at the
it's
top.
The coloration. But like we said, it was getting lit. It was more than likely getting lit up.
Well, I mean, I even put that shot in from when Luke's on the sail barge, and in that light, that's a very dark-looking version of that lightsaber.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And because of that deleted scene that was shown during the celebration, I believe it was last year, or it might have been 2 years ago. Where we finally get to see Luke Skywalker lighting up that lightsaber for the first time in the cave. We don't know how old it is. We assume that he only had just made this lightsaber at the beginning of episode 6, maybe a little bit before. Maybe that cave scene was the first time he lit it up.
That's what the cave scene was supposed to represent from what I've remember reading about
it. So I mean it would be hard to believe that this thing became so weathered so quickly, especially the way that it's shown it in the game. So I think you're right. This thing just caught a brunt of that lightning hit, and then now it's kind of the way it is.
Well,
now.
even during Jabba's sail barge, or even on Endor, you can make arguments when that thing takes blaster bolts. That it could cause some of that black scarring just from the fucking shit that emits from it when it hits. The sparks that come off. Very
true. So yeah, I mean that's one revelation that we get is that Luke does still have his ROTJ lightsaber, and that it might come into play in this movie. I mean, we were questioning whether Luke still has a weapon of any kind. We see the blue Skywalker family lightsaber, but we don't see Luke having anything now.
Oh, dude, we're both on record saying we'd essentially pop boners or possibly pass out if he whipped out the green.
Oh,
boy.
Yeah. So I hope to see it, and now it's good to know that he still has it. And
especially if he whips it out with the Force.
Oh, man.
Just as shoom, and just fucking whips it out somewhere hidden. He's like,
dude, that would be so dope. He just hid it away because he couldn't, he didn't even want to be associated with.
Yeah, or it's tucked into his staff somehow, that metal staff he has. He just cracks it open and it fucking comes out.
Oh, man, that would be awesome. Oh, yeah. Now we're talking, but. I don't know. It's just good to know that he still has the saber. And then you also had another revelation here in the article.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw up a potential spoiler alert for the video game. I mean, I don't really consider the lightsaber thing to be a spoiler, but this one I do. So spoiler. All right, here we go. So, yeah, the other thing is, and again, Nick, this mission was probably even the ones where I was playing as Iden Versio, who is the main character, those were really good because you get a much better perspective of how an Imperial felt. And it's how you expect. I mean, they think they're doing the right thing, and the rebels are the bad people, where, we've always been shown the perspective of the rebels, and, we understood that the rebels were right. And I don't want to go too far into that because there are a lot of spoilers to go on. So maybe next week, when the game's been out for a week, we can dive much deeper into the campaign because it definitely has some twists and turns. But anyway, so back to this mission with Luke. So you end up on this mission with Luke through the Empire. The Empire sent there, and I believe Operation Cinder's brought up in Aftermath. Nick, is that correct? Does that sound familiar to you?
I'm not 100% sure.
The Emperor's Operation Cinder, which was essentially his pre-plan, like if he had a plan, and this was detailed in that book because we had those trilogies of books, right, to tell basically stories between Jedi and TFA. We learned that the Emperor had a plan essentially to fucking blow everything up if he died. Like, if the Empire falls and I'm dead, fuck it all. Burn it because that means it was too weak and rebuild from the flames. And that was, in this game, that's revealed to be Operation Cinder, which also I would assume was revealed in that book anyways. So, through Operation Cinder, this Inferno Squad agent is sent to this planet to destroy a bunker of the Emperor's. And it just so happens to be that when he gets on this planet, Luke Skywalker's there because, lo and behold, the Force has called him to this planet. Are we starting to draw connections here, Nick? Are we drawing the connections, right?
Yep.
So Luke is clearly keyed into the Emperor's hidden stashes of Force goods. And we learn in this bunker on Plea that Luke finds a compass, which looks very similar to a star map. And he essentially says to this agent, because the agent sent there to destroy everything, and, Luke saved the agent because Luke's a Jedi, he's a good guy. And Luke says to the agent, hey, yeah, go ahead and blow everything up, but I'm taking this one thing. And the agent's like, well, why? And he's like, because I asked you. Dude, it's such a pimp scene. I mean, Luke is so fucking Gandhi, but at the same time, basically saying, if you fuck with me, you're going to die.
Yeah, it's like, look, you have, a blaster rifle, you have some shitty armor that I can cut through.
Yeah, I mean, Luke's like, Inferno Squad my dick, motherfucker. I mean, you can just tell. But he's so Zen, like so Buddhist, Hindu. I mean, like I'm telling you, he was Gandhi-ish. But anyways, Luke's like, I'm going to take this fucking compass. And clearly Luke was drawn to it. Like, that's what drew him to the planet. And I'm making the connection, and let's just say I read ahead a little bit, but this compass is essentially what is going to lead Luke to the first Jedi Temple, which we know is on Acto. So this not only reveals that how Luke ends up finding Acto, but it also reveals that the Emperor knew about it.
Exactly.
And the Emperor had compiled so much Force shit, both Jedi and Sith. He was like stockpiling it, keeping it all for himself. And, I mean, his directive was, if I die, you get rid of all this, because if it gets into anyone's hands that knows what to do with it, bad guys are fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
And what happens? That Luke walks away with the compass, even though that the Empire was there to blow it up. He still gets it, and that's what is probably going to end up fucking the First Order in the long run.
A compass that leads to one of the most important locations in the entire galaxy, the planet where the Force was discovered.
Well, I mean, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong here. Was it not always the Jedis were first and the Sith spawned from the Jedi?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, essentially the old...
So Acto is the birthplace of the organized religion of the Force that was known as the Jedi, which eventually splittered into the Sith and the
Jedi. Yeah.
So clearly a major location for the Force users.
Yeah, any Force user, not just Jedi, but Sith as well. I mean, this is the homeland, the motherland of the Force. This is the Mecca. I mean, if other Force users knew about this place, there would be pilgrimages here. I mean, this is that important. And like you said, this game is being shunned, and more than likely the people who do buy it are going to ignore the campaign because they're buying it for the multiplayer. And this is a fucking massive, like, piece of the Star Wars galaxy now.
Dude, that's within the first 2.5 hours. And it only gets better, dude. I mean, you go on to experience a mission with Princess Leia on Naboo, draw the connections there. That's her fucking mom's home world.
I mean...
Okay? I mean, that's the type of story shit we're getting. We get to see Han with a beard hanging out with Maz Kanata. I mean, come on.
Yeah, this shit is important. So... if you're not a gamer, if you don't play video games and you're a Star Wars fan...
And there's hints that early that Han and Leia have a little bit of tension in the relationship.
I mean, I feel like...
And this is only months after... This is only 8-9 months after the Battle of Endor.
Yeah, I mean... to me, it was kind of clear that there was always going to be tension in that relationship. Like, it was just Han being Han...
He's got a beard, dude. He's got a beard. It's so awesome.
And, I mean, also, people, if...
Lando's in the game. You play as Lando. I mean, come on, people.
And this is all in top quality definition just due to the Frostbite engine. I mean, if you're unfamiliar with games, Frostbite engine is, like, the best you can get in terms of visual... representation and visual fidelity in video games.
I'm so bummed out because I had intentions to fully record everything in 4K because the Xbox One X has a built-in 4K game DVR, which is magical. But for some reason on this game, every cutscene freezes when I record it. Gameplay, fine. Looks great. As soon as the cutscene hit, freezes. Audio plays fine. Once the cutscene's over, video returns as normal. It makes no sense. I've recorded other 4K shit on the Xbox, but not this game because my plan was, just like a lot of other people do, to record all the cutscenes because in the end, I think it's going to be probably close to like a 45-minute long movie.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a great fucking movie.
Yeah, dude. I'm definitely interested in it now.
I hope I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I mean, I'm trying to be genuine with my opinion, and I'm more excitable than most with Star Wars. But I'm telling you, dude, I have a feeling that you're somewhat like me with your Star Wars love. And I just think for the narrative content alone, you're going to be like, that was worth my $6.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll be the first one to say when the first Battlefront game came out and there was not even a part of a campaign attached to it. There wasn't even
horrible.
Horrible. Yeah, it was.
You couldn't even do anything somewhat single player, even with just bots.
nothing at all. I was sorely disappointed with that game. I played it for like 2 hours maybe, and it was just like, yeah, the game looks good, but to me it had no soul because, like you said, what gives Star Wars a soul is the narrative, is the story, is the characters. And like, yeah, you can like unlock and, you know, like you could, in that game, you could pick up a drop and play as a hero from the Star Wars universe, but it didn't give you anything. Like, it didn't give you any sense of like, I feel like I'm playing a Star Wars game. It was just a shooter that was skinned in Star Wars. It was kind of disappointing. And to know that even with all of the controversy that's surrounding the multiplayer of this game, to know that there is like you said, an 8 to 10 hour long campaign that fulfills those narrative desires, like, that's what made me buy it. Like, because I didn't...
And dude, I've hardly touched on the lead character, Iden Versio, and she's fucking fantastic in her own right. I just don't want to say too much because she has a very interesting story arc.
Yeah. I mean...
that has, to me, pretty big impacts on the Skywalker saga.
Okay, so like this is what happened with me in this game. Like I wasn't gonna get it. I was gonna wait. I told, like, you asked me, you're like, I don't know if you pre-ordered Battlefront yet, and then the conversation started, and I told you, I was like, I might pick it up on Black Friday sale or something like that.
My other buddy's like, I'm not gonna touch it till it's $20,
dude. Like that's kind of how I was too. I'm like,
exactly, and that's really the kind of what I've been trying to get out in this little segment here, is that's what's happened to this game. People can't even consider that there's potential for a fantastic Star Wars story.
Well, like, to me, I know that they really hyped up Aiden's character, and like they tried to do a lot of like marketing around her, and then the girl that plays her, Janina, I think it's Gavin Carr is their last name, like she's been out there a lot talking about the game, but like it just feels like they should have completely ignored all multiplayer aspects of this game in marketing and only been surrounding it with the campaign.
Oh, I agree. I mean, after just playing what I played, I mean, to me, the campaign's the star. But I do think for a general gamer, the main allure to this game is the multiplayer. I mean, that's just how the landscape's gone in gaming. I mean, with shooters, there's a lot of developers now that honestly consider, do we even need a campaign? And I'm always going to be, just because of my generation, I'm always like, I only want to play a campaign. I don't give a fuck about multiplayer because I know I'm going to suck. I don't feel like playing something that makes me hate myself. So I want to just fucking sit back in my couch, in my theater, and enjoy a good story that happens to have some gameplay in it where I kill stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm kind of at that point, too. Like, I have multiplayer games that I play online, but it's specifically for, like, that reason. There is no campaign attached to it. But, like, if I'm playing something like this, where I know that there could be a great story attached to it and there isn't, then I'm just not interested. Even with other games like Call of Duty, like Titanfall, to me, Titanfall 2 having a campaign mode in it was great. I really enjoyed it, and it was an improvement over Titanfall 1, and I didn't even I barely played the multiplayer. So, I mean, for Star Wars fans out there who are listening to this that don't play games, or maybe you have a console but you use it for, Blu-ray or entertainment purposes, whatever, like, a game like this is something that you should definitely consider and not even touch the multiplayer, just because of the content of the story, and that's why I bought it. Like,
and I'll play the devil's advocate because he being in gaming is just natural for him. Well, $60 for a campaign. Well, fuck you. People, depending where you live, people spend $15, $20 to watch an hour and a half long movie.
Yeah.
So if you get 6 to 8 hours out of a campaign, and we just go with even $10 for a movie ticket per hour, I mean, you're getting a better value still by buying a $60 game to play its campaign only than going to a film.
Yeah, exactly. The value's there. The gameplay.
And you have trade-in potential, for Christ's sake, if you buy a physical copy. I mean, you can get some money back on it.
It might not be a lot, but you'll get something. But, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in the game now. Like I said, I was going to wait on it. I had no interest. Hey,
you see that, EA and DICE? I can fucking sell video games. Just because my site doesn't get millions of visitors, I can fucking sell a game.
I gotta say, it was solely because of you. Because if you wouldn't have told me,
I know, now I'm gonna feel bad. Now I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna have to fucking send you $60 if you hate it.
I mean, because I was literally, I was sitting there and I had looked at it, and then all this shit popped up about it, and I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to get it because it's going to be trash because of the progression system and all this stuff around it. But as soon as you said, the campaign for this is so legit that I would ignore the multiplayer, I was like, okay, if Matt said that, then, I know this is for real.
And, dude, I had my doubts because I figured they were just going to, they were essentially going to add cutscenes to the Xbox, original Xbox's Battlefront or Battlefront 2, where it's literally like Nick said, you could play Galactic Conquest, which was only you playing against AI on the maps. This, I do believe it shares some maps that are in multiplayer, but there are legitimately designed levels.
Yeah, that's
I mean, to me, it feels like a real campaign. Yeah. I mean, it's just as real as a Call of Duty campaign, as a Battlefield, like, bang bang campaign. So if I had to buy it, I would feel good about my purchase based on the story alone. I'm not saying the gameplay is anything great, because it's not. It's very basic. It's very robotic. But the fucking story content to me is legit, because it's canon, it's entertaining, and it's revealing.
And for those of you who are now considering it, EA has removed the paywall from the multiplayer, at least for the time being. So,
yeah, and you can make the argument that it's got probably the most replayability of any modern video game. I mean, someone did the math, and you could literally spend 6 years, whatever, 6 years playing 2 hours a day, 4 years playing 2 hours a day, and still not unlock everything.
I mean, that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
There you go. But, I mean, that's getting bang for your buck.
There you go, baby. People. 2 years worth of replayability, and you still won't have everything. How does that feel?
Great campaign story, and you can literally play multiplayer for days and never do everything in it.
Awesome.
All right, dude. Well, I think we recapped the week pretty well. We got the big stories out there, and some of the little ones. I mean, I am interested to see what Solo ends up to be. We need something at this point, right? I mean, it's very late in the stage, so we need something.
We can't continue to speculate without at least a poster. Like, give us a poster or something. And then
right, and I think Ryan's correct. I mean, I do trust the guy that he's definitely going to bring a new spin to this middle movie, but I also think it is going to have very similar moments to Empire. It's inevitable. But the fact the guy got a trilogy greenlit by Disney and Lucasfilm, I mean, come on, people. We already know this is going to be a 95% fresh plus movie.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. So who cares if it's fucking Empire Part 2? It doesn't matter. The new TV spot we got, that was pretty revealing too. We got some new lines from Rey, obviously tying Kylo's failures and to Luke's hesitation. That was awesome. It cleared up some confusion on some edits from the trailer. And then obviously we just had that long discussion on Battlefront 2. So that's the type of shit you get on Star Wars Time with your boys Matt and Nick. So we appreciate you listening. Always, please give us feedback. We need it. We crave it. We love those on YouTube giving us comments. Aunt Vesuvi, again, hitting us up, interacting. Fantastic stuff. We appreciate that type of loyalty, that dedication. It will be rewarded. Ready? Humana, 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 humana. I just shot out some Force spirits to you. So, people, hit it up on iTunes, Google Play, Android, Stitcher, RSS feeds, emails. Download it, pirate it, steal it. We don't give a fuck. Just listen, please. All right? Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.